let's take it back. It's a little bit about background, childhood, upbringing, to sort of set the scene of who you are and maybe where all your future stuff came from.
Yeah. Very fortunate as a young kid to go to private school. That was cool. Obviously, there's huge benefits to that level of education. So when I was 9, I went to boarding school. So that was a major life event. And then my parents divorced when I was 11.
Where are you from? Where are we talking now?
Mate, lived everywhere because my dad was in the military. So we moved like every 18 months
Posted
to 2
around.
years. Yeah. Portsmouth, lived there twice, South Sea.
A lot of military there.
Yeah. Lived in St. Ives, St. Neots, Cambridgeshire, bounced around. And then when my parents got divorced, I went to a military school. So
Military boarding school?
Yeah. So this is awesome with my mum. 1-0. She was like, I really want to try and keep him in private school. So she got a job at a school as a house matron. And I then went to that school on the cheap seats. Wow. So I only ever went to military school or boarding school because I got like in the cheap seat kind of door, which is cool, but work the system, why not?
What a legend.
She's a legend. So she moved us to the school. So we lived on campus the whole time I was at boarding school. So obviously it's a really weird environment, military school. It's extremely strict, extremely regimented. You got to go out on parade at the weekend. You got to polish your shoes every day. You got to wear a uniform. It's all like crusty and stuff.
Is it boys only?
No, it's mixed.
Mixed.
In a boys only house, boarding house.
Okay.
So it's like 60 boys in a house scrapping about all the time. But, the education was brilliant. But it was a tough environment. I never fit in. So I've always thought a bit differently, got diagnosed with ADHD when I went to university, was always in the rebellious crowd because, at school, especially at military, it was all about science and maths and English, like all that stuff. And I was rubbish, all of that stuff. I wanted to do like theatre, the arts, creative stuff. Like, my brain was just a bit out there. So all the way through school, it was like, you're rubbish, you're not applying yourself, all the rest of it. Luckily at GCSE, you get to choose quite a lot of your subjects. So I then chose the creative stuff. Then did the same at A-level. So anyway, left military school at 18, left obese, had IBS, had asthma, eczema, like...
Flipping out.
Like it was, tough at times. Like the bullying was very tough I was only one of 2 fat kids in the whole school. And for me, I then had a choice as an adult at the age of 18 to like sort myself out. And I saw an opportunity. And the opportunity came that I, at the time, was going to go into the performing arts field. So I'd always loved theatre.
Okay. And
I wanted to go to drama school. So I was doing auditions for like RADA, all that kind of stuff in London. And failure. And I was like, well, why am I getting all this rejection? Why can't I get in? And there was a point where I just had to look at myself in the mirror and I was like, well, perhaps it's me. Like I can blame the system, I can, whatever, but perhaps it's me. So I then kind of went on this journey of trying to get fitter and healthier, and it wasn't really working. I didn't really get very many good results.
So when you were auditioning, you were still the overweight you?
Yes.
I was not the new you,
16 stone, at the time. So I went down to 10.5 stone after the weight loss journey, and I'm about 13 and a half now.
Tanked. Awesome.
All kinds of awesome. So look, the journey was problematic. And I remember having an argument with my brother in the kitchen one day, and he said, because I was bullying him, as older brothers do. I'm the older brother by 4.5 years. And he sort of said, you're not so perfect. You keep doing all this stuff. Nothing's working. Like, what are you doing? And at that point, that was another one of those hard moments where someone holds the mirror up to your face and you're like, I need to sort this shit out. So I said, well, where do people go to get fit and healthy? So I joined a gym, happened to join a good gym. It was a David Lloyd. It was nice. And fell in the hands of a good trainer. And he gave me like a really good kind of baptism of fire in the gym and set me straight. Didn't make anything complicated. He also said, go and read this book, ordered it, read it within the space of a couple of weeks, applied it, lost 5.5 stone in about 6 months. And
wow.
That personal transformation then led to like what I would describe as all the other sort of transformations that I continue to try and make in my life. So it was kind of like a drug. Like getting fit was a drug that I wanted to keep taking every day. And I've never put on more than about half a stone my whole adult life, because that memory of being obese and unhappy and bullied and all the rest of it. It sits there, but like, I don't want that. Like, I love what is now. So that's what got me into the world of health and fitness. And that was like 17 odd years ago now.
Let's take it back and break it down a little bit. So firstly, boarding military school. I'm quite interested in that. Are you still taught like a normal school, or are they teaching you, they're not teaching you any firearm or any physical fitness different to a normal school, or they are? Yeah,
you used to do, it was called CCA, like Combat Cadet something. And on a Monday afternoon, you'd all split off into RAF, Army, Navy, whatever the other one is, Marines. And then I kept bouncing around them because I kept like failing in all of them. So they created this separate group called, I can't remember, but basically they made a project for us because we couldn't cope with all the other things. And we ended up building an assault course at the back of like the kind of school.
So it's regular curriculum that I'd get at my school, I would have got.
Yeah.
But are they effectively, I don't know if grooming is the right word, but preparing you to join the military after? Is that the kind of mindset of the school?
Yeah, soft skills, yeah.
And how often do you get to go home to your parents and your family?
Well, my mum lived there, so I got to like literally nip in.
That's good.
Didn't really see my dad much at all, like here and there.
Brother,
he was at the school for the first 2 years, and then my mum couldn't afford to have us both in. So I got chosen to stay. Bit awkward in the family dinner table scenario.
Is he still upset about that?
He says he's not.
He's listening.
So he went to like a local high school, and I stayed in. Stayed until 18.
Wow. And then parents broke up when you were 9. You
11.
Said. 11, sorry.
Yeah.
11. Oh, you went to school at 9, boarding school at 9.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Yeah, tough. Like, you don't understand it. It's like, why? Why can't you just stay together? Like, so I don't have a lot of memory. I think because it's quite painful, you block it out as a kid because you want to move on quickly from it.
Because 11, normally you'd remember quite a lot from that age.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you?
I remember it happening, like they sat us down in the living room and there was like tea and biscuits, and it all felt like me and your dad had got to talk to you about something. I'm like, Mum and Dad never do this. Like, probably.
Yeah.
So they switched off Nickelodeon. Remember Nickelodeon?
Yeah, I love Nickelodeon.
Good times.
Awesome.
Keenan and Kel.
That was awesome.
And then it all happened really quickly because like they had to get rid of the house because we were in a military house. So like within a couple of months we were at a new school, new environment, new everything. So it's just like crack on.
But because they split, does that mean what happens with your mum and home housing? Does the military still
she didn't have one. She's never had one. So that's another reason why she had to find a job with a living like situation.
Bless her.
So she got a 1-bedroom flat as part of the job, and then her and my brother slept in the 1-bedroom together.
Wow.
While I was over the other side enjoying
getting beasted.
Full catering.
Getting beasted. Growing up, I feel we're subliminally programmed by what our parents do, right? If you look, generally a lawyer's kid becomes a lawyer, a police officer's kid becomes a police officer. Now, a military's kid generally goes in the military. I'm stereotyping, but
of course.
That's like the statistics. You obviously haven't taken that route. Mm-hmm. What's that down to? Is that down to being forced at a military boarding school? Is that down to your relationship with your dad? Is that down to the breakup with your mum? Do you know, have you ever thought about that?
Yeah, thought about it plenty. I didn't fit the mold, and I didn't like how they kept trying to force me into the mold. So I obviously...
In what sense you didn't fit the mold? Just being overweight and unfit?
A bit, but I was just like quite a creative mind. And military, you kind of have to conform because that's almost the job. It's like, we need you to go and like manage this control room or this system or go and do, like, that's the job. So I didn't really fit. I thought very differently. And kind of like you, before we came on air, you were like, I'm the why guy. I'm similar. I'm like, why am I doing this? They're like, go and run up that hill. And I'm like, why?
They must have gone, shut up and run.
Why am I running up the hill? I don't want it. Can't we at least play football or something? Like, so it's dynamic. So I didn't fit in. And then because they kept trying to like force me, I started to hate the system. And then the system like hated me back. So I was always getting suspended, like internal suspension.
Yeah.
I was always having to do crappy jobs like polish the radiators because I'd, done whatever. So yeah, it kind of, the system made me hate it. So, you either conform or you flip, and I just flipped. I then got into kind of like the arts and really enjoyed it. I enjoyed expression and being able to entertain people and make people like feel a certain way. Like, I love being on stage and like 300 people laughed at, like a joke you said. That's a hugely dopaminergic kind of
Very rewarding.
situation. So I kind of like was then drawn and sucked into that world. I don't do it anymore, but luckily we live in a world now where we can podcast and do things like that. So I'm kind of performing in a different way, but as myself.
Our whole life's a performance, isn't it?
Yeah.
To an extent.
Yeah.
We're all acting, really, because does anyone really know what we think in the deep, dark corners of our mind? Do we ever share that with our best friends, our wives? Probably not, if we're being honest.
And do many of us know what we're doing half the time? Like making it up as we go along? Like,
I find it interesting. So we spoke in the car, obviously, on the way here a little bit about this being overweight, being bullied, this kind of stuff. And then enjoying performing arts and enjoying drama and enjoying bringing joy to people. Is there an element of, because I've been through something similar, which I'm explaining, fitting in? We talked about fitting in. Do you think your love for the gym, your love for looking good, feeling good, performing, making people laugh, even podcasting, all this kind of stuff that's like brings joy to others, is that from a fitting in element, do you reckon, because of the bullying as a kid?
So initially, I don't think it was a case of fitting in. I think it was a case of having some level of acceptance. Because if they could turn up to the school play and I could make them laugh for an hour, they accepted me. And then for the next couple of days, they were like, oh, you're amazing, you were this. And then like the bullying stopped for a week. And then it was like back to the bullying. So it was almost like I was finding a way to be accepted more than anything. The fitness thing, I suppose, is a bit different. Like I got fit for myself because I wanted to better myself. But then there was secondary benefits. So, the reality is if you become really fit and kind of athletic looking, you're probably only in a crowd of like 5 to 3 to 2% of people, because not many people go to the gym or like kind of have that goals. And I'm not saying people should. So then you start to kind of be admired a little bit, like, oh, you're really like fit and muscular and all the rest of it. And then that kind of like it feeds it even more. And then you kind of elevate yourself. And I enjoyed that because I'd never, ever felt that, because at school it was always like, whatever, Ben, you're fat, you're shit at football, whatever. So I was like, well, I'm going to keep doing this because I now have value in the world where I've never had that.
It's amazing that you've had that sort of resilient mind at such a young age. Because how old are you when you made that change from, right, I'm going to lose the weight, I'm going to get fit? How old are we talking there?
So 18? I suppose, this is the power of environment. And I suppose I want to help people understand this, because when I was 18, my parents didn't live in the UK. They lived, and then they moved quickly. So I think they moved to China.
Okay.
So my mum remarried at that point, and then her partner got a job in China as a teacher, and she went because I'd finished school. So at that point she was like, I've got no reason to stay at the school anymore. I've done my bit.
So you were homeless at 18, effectively? As in you had
kind of. My parents had a house, so I was able to live in the house with his sons and one other people. So it's a biggish 5-bedroom house with 5 teenagers living in it, all on their own.
No adult?
No adult.
Well, you're all adults technically, but yeah.
Yeah, technically. So I went to China for a bit. Didn't enjoy it. And then kind of went home, and I was like, well, I now need to make sense of my life. So I was trying to go to drama school, was trying to do the fitness thing. But the good thing at that point is I was able to shape my new environment. And I didn't like my old environment. I didn't like my old friends. I didn't like my old way of life. So I was like, I want a new way of life. So I joined a gym. So I was now in an environment where there was people that were trying to better themselves, get fit. They were motivated. They were affluent as well, because the David Lloyd gym's a premium gym. It's like 80 quid a month.
Yeah.
So I'm now in like the top 10% demographic of, my area. And then I sort of, fell into the fitness side of things and fell into personal training. And then when you're a personal trainer, you're generally your services are getting bought by people that have the top salary. So all of a sudden I was in quite an aspirational kind of environment. So I was able to kind of decide my future. And because I knew what I didn't want, I started to create what I did want, but didn't have any external influences. I didn't have any friends going, you can't do that, you shouldn't do that, you're not good enough. Because I literally had no friends. So I had to rebuild my friendship group, rebuild everything. And that was a good thing for me. I just leaned into it and just sort of slowly built myself up again.
How do you get there, though, at that age? That's so, like, the awareness is insane. To be able to, I'm just thinking when you're talking 18, right? You're 18?
Yes.
19?
Yeah.
At the time, not now.
Yeah.
I'm thinking when I was 18, I had no awareness of that. I had no real rudder, no real direction. But I feel like that you're so young and you've managed to sort of something in you's gone, right, this is what I'm doing, and you've gone 110% at it. Are you like that with everything?
I was up until 2 years ago, yeah. That's another topic for another day.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
got, like,
So
18 years old, most lads don't know what they're doing.
So this is the benefit of boarding school. It taught you the benefit of discipline. I was able to see, so at boarding school, you are again surrounded by the top 5% of people with money, jobs, careers, because they're all earning 100 whatever grand a year.
Yeah.
So I was constantly seeing all these parents getting, because even in the early days, I didn't ever like leave the school. Like, so sometimes my parents didn't come and collect me. I'd have to like stay at the school at the weekend. And they turn up in their Range Rovers and all the rest of it. And so was like, he was a business owner. He was a lawyer. So you're constantly getting all these messages that if I do these things kind of that the school are asking me, be disciplined, study hard, all the rest of it, I can get that. So that's the benefit of the early exposure of being exposed to. So we were just a really normal middle class family. Like my dad, probably a decent job, 40 grand a year in the military or whatever.
And in those days, it's good.
Yeah. But I was looking at everyone that was earning 100, 200 grand a year. And I was like, I want some of that. Because as a kid, we didn't really go on holiday that much, because dad was either away, they didn't value paying it, all the rest of it. So I kind of was constantly getting this exposure to what most people want, which is security, affluence. I know we don't like to admit this as people, but power.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to aspire to that. And it was bubbling inside me. I didn't know how to do it, but I was willing to figure it out and just kind of chip it away at it.